Welcome back. In previous lecture, we start presenting samples of main components and how the main item will be presented in the shape of geometrical features like circle, diamond, square to represent the main items in a hydraulic circuit. We also understood the hydraulic lines symbols, the lines which carries the oil to flow. We also demonstrated understanding in how these lines will be crossover or joining each other. And also we understood how a restriction, whether normal or controlled, can be presented for a hydraulic sketch. In this lecture, we'll start going against each component what will be their samples used in hydraulic sketch. Let's start with the pump and motor. Pump and motor will present in a circle with an arrow indicating the flow direction. In the left hand side we have single rotation of the pump in single direction, and in the right hand side we have a two direction rotation of the pump and the motor. The difference here is single arrow, and here we have double arrow in both directions, indicates the flow or rotation of the pump in two directions. It can supply either here or backward. No matter what type of pump, still all will be presented in the same way. The filters which used to clean the hydraulic oil. The general symbols used for a filter is an empty diamond as seen here, and we have several different types of filter symbols can be made by making slight changes or addition to these basic symbols, like this sample. Here we have a filter with a dashed vertical line inside the basic symbol represents the filtering media which the fluid must flow through. Another type of filter here where a line will be drawn horizontally across the bottom portion of the sample, and it will represent the separated matter that has settled down to the bottom of the filter, like water. So this line gives me an indication of settlement of the separated items or matters, like water here. Another type of filter where a short line extends from the bottom of the sample as shown here. This will represent that it is a manual drain filter. On the other type, when we have an automatic drain filter, it will be represented by a small letter V placed below the horizontal separation line as shown. For the reservoir or oil tank, are pictured either an open square, which means it is a vented reservoir, or closed reservoir, meaning that it will be a pressurized reservoir. We'll come to know each type in details in coming lectures. Every system reservoir has at least two lines connecting to it, and some may have many more connections. Often the components that are connected to it or to the filter are spread all over the schematic. And rather than having lots of confusing lines, it is customary to draw individual reservoir symbol close to the component. In some cases, I will be having drain from the pump, drain from the valve, drain from the actuators, all go to the same hydraulic reservoir, but in some cases in the sketches I can draw this small box to be attached to the item to indicate that it will be drained to the reservoir. For pressure regulators and check valves will be represented in this way. This symbol represents the pressure regulators and check valves. The pressure regulators need to ensure certain pressure value passing to the actuator or cylinder, and if it exceeds, then it needs to be released to the reservoir. In this sketch, the dashed line represents the drain to the tank, and this zigzag line will represent the mode of operations or actuation of this pressure regulator. And here, in this case, this is a symbology of spring-operated pressure regulators. And here, this arrow will represent the flow direction of hydraulic fluid. On the right hand, the symbol represents a check valve which is used to restrict the flow of hydraulic oil in a reverse direction, where the flow will go in this direction and will not be allowed to go in this direction. Accumulators. A hydraulic accumulator is a device that stores the potential energy of an incompressible fluid held under pressure by an external source against some dynamic force. And this dynamic force, which is responsible for holding this pressure, varies in type. We have common three types here, like I'm using gas or mechanical spring, or sometimes I'm using weight. The stored potential energy in an accumulator is a quick secondary source of fluid power capable of doing useful work as required by the system. Thank you, and see you in next lecture.